morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. And God loves you. I tell you, my God, who I found to be a loving and caring God 34 plus years ago, while underneath a parked car, after getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors for my own stepson. We were both suffering from co-occurring disorders, obviously of mental illness and substance abuse. Why would we be engaging in such horrific acts? Well, that's when I hollered out to a God that I didn't know, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. And he showed me a better way by putting me on a pathway to spiritual recovery from my brokenness and being broke. So that's why I come to you every morning, giving him the honor, the praise, the glory, the hallelujah, the worship, but most importantly, the acknowledgement. He chose me to rise this morning, and obviously he chose you to rise for a reason, to be of service to others. One thing I've learned about utilizing my spiritual tools, resources, and principles is that what? I don't know what cards life is going to deal me on a daily basis, but I eventually found out through my knee-bowing experience underneath that parked car, February the 22nd of 1993, 3 o'clock in the morning, that was my knee-bowing experience. And from then on, my God knew that I was ready. When the student, through humiliation, desperation, degradation, right, calls out and says, help me, I'm ready, the teacher will appear. Once we are put on a spiritual path, the spiritual student will become ready and the spiritual teachers will appear. So, with that being said, welcome to the Free to Hope morning conversation with Edwina B. That's me, y'all, known as Miss Coo for Coco. Pop, 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 pop. You see why? I learned to laugh. I learned to smile. I learned to be grateful. I have learned to breathe, learn to know that I'm breathing, not on my own, but only by the grace of God. I learned that I need not take for granted my 5 senses, and more importantly, my 6th sense. Many times during my addiction, I got that feeling, that sense that says, Edwina, get out. Edwina, stop. Edwina, go left. Edwina, don't. Edwina is trying to tell me. But I ignored it. And I got what I got. But no more. Once I learned about my being broken and broke, and that there were some spiritual tools, resources, and principles available, you would think I was standing in the drug line at the steak store, standing in line for it to open. I am standing in line and ready for all spiritual tools and resources and principles that will and have provided me an unlimited amount of spiritual breakthroughs. Don't you want to experience that? Don't you want to set yourself free from recovery, emerge empowered? Don't you want to give hope to others after you have been set free? Help others prosper equally? Wouldn't you like to know and accomplish your purpose? Do you even recognize what your calling is? Are you walking towards your destiny? Well, I can answer to those questions. Yes, 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 yes. Why? because I surrendered all. I surrender all. I surrender all. Have you surrendered all? If you haven't, there's an opportunity for you to join me in my first master's class scheduled for Thursday, May the 30th from 7 to 8:30 in person and virtual, and or Saturday, June the 1st from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. If you missed my free seminar on April the 27th, I'm going to let you know what some of the attendees had to say. And more importantly, I want to share with you the miracle that happened, or miracles that happened that day. Things were revealed that used to be concealed. Someone had a breakthrough from a childhood experience. A.J. Harding started off with "Victory is mine." Even before we got into the information, consolation, education, and meditation. Yes. So when you sign up for my upcoming master's class, you will have 90 minutes of detailed information on how to acknowledge, embrace your brokenness and being broke. Because like me, I was so tired. I was so tired of being defeated. I was so tired of the self-loathing. I was so tired of the self-hatred. I was so tired of being in despair, feeling hopeless, helpless. I was just so tired. Even trying to commit suicide several times. I didn't realize how tired I was because my ego and my pride and the enemy wanted me to think that there's nothing that you can do, Edwina. That's just the way you are, Edwina. That's because, that's just the way it is, Edwina. Yeah, the adversary was in my ear. My ego, my pride was saying, no, you'll be all right. Just keep trying this. Just keep trying that. And everything that the adversary, my ego and pride told me to do, put me underneath that parked car. So now I listen and I yield to the Spirit. And so coming to my master's class, you will be given some spiritual tools, resources, and principles to apply to your brokenness and being broke. And so one of the things that I will share before I go on to our topic for today, I have been challenged. I love challenges. Do you? I've been challenged, and that's okay. I love to be challenged. You know why? Because I realize that no weapons formed against me will ever prosper. But I like challenges, okay? Number one, I equip myself with spiritual tools and resources and principles to bring with me to deal with that challenge. Do you? What challenges are you facing? What challenges? I don't call them problems anymore. I call them issues, challenges, right? No big deal. If I apply spiritual principles, tools, and resources, nothing on this earthly journey can steal my joy, can steal my peace, and more importantly, put me back underneath that parked car. Hell to the no. So I want you, when you come to my master's class, And soon after that, I will have a 3 to 5 day boot camp where we going to, put on any and all things, right? To face any and all challenges. Okay? So, welcome, welcome, welcome again. All right, so let's get into our topic for today. Many of you know that as a result of me being in this process, I've learned to share with you bits and pieces of my journey. And the other day, we're still in the month of May, and May is the mental health month as well, and also the month that we celebrate Mother's Day. But I've learned that I celebrate every day is a gift from God every day. So y'all want to give acknowledgement here and there, it's no problem. I yield, okay? But in dealing with my brokenness and being broke, I had to go back in my history during the AA fourth step principle to find out that there was nothing wrong with me, but there was plenty that happened to me. There was plenty that I saw, that I imitated, that I emulated, right? That I heard, that I felt, that I did. Yes. And who influenced me the most? These two women on the screen from a woman's perspective. Oh, yes. And so when I look at this little girl in the middle, eyes all big and bright, yes, I oftentimes stare at this picture. I often stare at this picture. Now, these are tears of joy, right? I often stare at that picture of that little girl and wonder at that time what she was thinking, what she was feeling. And as I continue to learn attitudes, ideas, behaviors, actions, right? Feelings, thoughts, whatever, from these two women in my life that had and has dominated many areas of my life in positive ways and in some negative ways. I've learned to create balance. There's some good and some bad people, and there's some bad and some good people. Our literature from the Alcoholics Anonymous program says all of us are ill to some extent. All of us. Yes, we are born into sin, have a sinful nature. Okay. Now I understand. Before I didn't. Right? So, even though this little girl, right, is looking up to these two women, right, I also recognize that this man up here, which is my dad, had, in my opinion, the most influence. Yes, the most influence. Why? Because I wanted to be just like my dad. The only issue was I was a girl. But I wanted to be just like my daddy. And so when I think about my brokenness and being broke, how can a little girl want to be like her daddy? To the point where I even tried to pee like my dad. I stood over the toilet. I stood over the toilet and held back and pushed back and pulled back. If my daddy peed like that, then why can't I pee like that? My dad didn't like his eggs a certain way. I didn't like my eggs a certain way. My dad didn't do that. I don't want to do that. My dad said that. I want to say what my dad did. So when I talk about going back into our history of finding out where our brokenness and being broke started, we must take a fearless and searching inventory of all parts of our lives. And so these three people had a definite impact in my development. All right, so let's go to our reading today, which I find very appropriate, right? I find very appropriate. Yesterday, the topic was we forgive, right? And in the fifth step of the AA program, we learned that we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. This is where, in the fifth step, where we acknowledge that God already know everything about us, but relieving or releasing that deep dark secret out and outward has a way of, right, lessening the impact that it held within me, right? I more or less helped set myself free by revealing things that I was going to conceal to take to the grave, but it prevented me from healing. So we admitted it to God, and we, of course, admitted to ourselves, but the freedom actually comes in admitting it to another person. That's why I can sit before you transparent and authentic as I possibly can be. I have no secrets. I'm not intimidated by any man. No, I have been set free. From recovery, I have emerged empowered, and I am giving hope to others, help others prosper equally, even if it's just one person. And with the fifth step, it talks about many of our character defects, but getting to the exact nature of our wrongs. Okay, so let's read what they say about forgiveness. Okay, here we go. May the 17th, AA Daily Reflections, and forgive. The co-founder states, under very trying conditions, I have had again and again to forgive others, also myself. Under very trying conditions, I have had again and again to forgive others, also myself. As Bill sees it, page 268. The person in recovery shares their perspective. He says forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others are just two currents in the same river, both hindered or shut off completely by the dam of resentment. Once that dam is lifted, both currents can flow. The steps of AA allow me to see how resentment has built up, subsequently blocked off this flow in my life. The steps provide a way by which my resentments may, by the grace of God, as I understand Him, be lifted. It is a result of this solution that I can find the necessary grace which enables me to forgive myself and others. Woo! Okay, now, it's amazing because I've learned through this journey, right, that there are sometimes, right, situations. I'm just trying to get this light thing, but it's okay. It's okay. I am trying to internalize the words that are stated in these readings. Why? Because they used to be just words to me. I just read on paper, they highlighted in black, red, whatever, it don't matter. But because I was just reading, right? I was reading as a student because the teacher is appearing through this message. But when the spiritual student appears, right? This same information I can now see and internalize from a spiritual angle, which makes all the difference in the world. So let's dissect this baby for a few. All right, let's see here. It says, under very trying conditions. Let's stop there. Under very trying conditions. How many times have you experienced in your life, in the journey of life, trying conditions? I can name a slew of them. You can name a slew of them. But look where you are now. Look where you are now. Huh? That's the mystery of life. It may rain, but the sun will shine in the morning. But I know the sun always shines. Yes. And so when trying conditions present themselves, I am more aware of them, and I don't allow myself to get all messed up behind them anymore. Why? Because I learn and apply spiritual principles, tools, and resources to dissect that condition. Yes, right? All the parts, all the components, all the ingredients. Yes, I want to figure out what's going on. So once I figure out what's going on, I step back and I said, okay, this is the trying condition, but what spiritual tools do I have? What spiritual principles can I use? What spiritual resources are available to attack that baby and put that trying condition to rest? Huh? So you see how I dissect that? Okay, so let's go on. Under very trying conditions, I have had again and again, right? And it's saying to forgive others and myself. When trying conditions come about, right, there are people involved, situations, circumstances, right? I play a part in it in one shape, form, or fashion. And so when the trying conditions that I have experienced by all those participants and conditions, right? I had to find out what I need to do to relieve myself, right? To experience that freedom that I had before that trying condition came about. Because if I recall, it's not the first time I have had trying conditions. Now, in my past, before I learned about spiritual tools and resources, let me tell you, forgiveness. Now, when I think about those trying conditions, and I think about particularly others who have or are contributing to that trying condition, I also must look at myself. What I mean by that, when I was growing up and I saw how my mother and father engaged in trying conditions, my mother being on the receiving end and my father administering the condition, right? Oftentimes, my father would abuse my mother over and over and over again. Each time, my mom found forgiveness for him in spite of what he had and continuously did to her. Now, when I look back in my history to see the dynamics of forgiving others and myself, there's only one example that I can start with, and that is with my parents. And so when I look back in my history where my attitudes, ideas, and behaviors were first formulated, did I understand the word even forgiveness? No. Did I even think about the word forgiveness? No. What I did was look at the behavior of forgiveness. How in the world could my mom keep going back over and over and over again to my daddy, her husband, who abused her over and over again, and she took him back over and over again? So in my mind, my dad would show a lot of affection and attention after he abused my mother. Was that his way of asking for forgiveness? In turn, was that her way of forgiving him? I'm a little girl, so I grew up with the mentality that if you love me, you say you love me, then that meant you're going to abuse me, and I need to let you abuse me because you're going to show me and give me affection and attention after you abuse me. That's your way of saying, I'm sorry. That's my way of saying, I forgive you. Now, I had no idea that the Spirit was going to use this analogy. I had no idea. That's what I mean by yielding to the Spirit. When we say my brokenness and being broke goes deep, 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 it goes deep. And so obviously, when we go back to find out where our brokenness and being broke began, we have to look at it from the child's perspective, your perspective as a child. Words were said, but they were contradicted by the behavior, confusion. And so how can these are tears of joy, y'all. How can a little child understand what you're saying is contradicted by what you're doing? So if my father said he loves my mother, I love you, Mush. That's what he used to call my mom. I love you, Mush. And she'll say, I love you, Eddie. Woo. And when I saw the affection, I was like, oh. But then I turned around and see the confusion. I'm like, what? And so when it talks about forgiveness, let's get back to this. I had to use that analogy because that's what the Spirit gave me. Okay. And so where it says here, right? Forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others are just two currents in the same river, right? And my mother and dad was in that river, same current, right? One way he was asking for forgiveness for himself. She was forgiving him for what he had did to her. Did she even forgive herself for allowing herself to be abused? Huh? Did my mother think she deserved it? Did she not forgive herself? Woo. So then the forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others, are both hindering or shut off completely by the dam of resentment. I'm sure my mother had big time resentments against my dad. And often I would hear her cry, Eddie, you're wrong. Eddie, you're wrong. Eddie, you are wrong. But yet he kept beating her. Eddie, you're wrong. Eddie, you're wrong. Was she resenting him as he was abusing her? And the abuser, my dad, who administered the pain, what was he resentful about? What was he resentful about? The fact that he found out that my mom's second daughter wasn't his? When they was 15, 17, 18, 19 years old, was that resentment, right? The cause of this treatment? That we hold resentments? Was that why he beat her? All right. And so then it comes and says, right, once that dam is lifted, both currents can flow. The steps of AA allow me to see how resentment has built up and subsequently blocked off this flow in my life. Both of my parents had their own journey. Both of my parents had their own personal relationship with the God of their understanding. Yet, as children, we see the first teachers in our lives, and that is our parents. And so when it talks about, right, how these steps of Alcoholics Anonymous has set me free to go back to find out, Edwina, there's nothing wrong with you, but there is plenty that has happened to you, right? I had resentments that my mom kept coming back. I had resentments that my father kept abusing her. I had resentments of myself because I couldn't protect my mother. I had resentment because I wanted to F my father up. I had resentment that I couldn't protect her. And I had resentments that I was too fearful to attack my own dad. But let me tell you, these spiritual tools and resources have set me free because now I understand. Yes. And now this process has given me the ability to forgive myself and to forgive my parents. Right? The steps which the way by which my resentments may, by the grace of God, as I understand him, be lifted. It is a result of this solution that I can find the necessary grace which enables me to forgive myself and forgive others, y'all. I've been set free. I set my resentments against my parents free. I no longer have those feelings. I know what it's like to forgive myself because of the things I did in my life. And when I put the focus on me first, then utilize these spiritual principles, then I could understand how and why I needed to forgive my parents, for they not know what they do. Isn't it a joy to be set free? But only when you apply spiritual principles, tools, and resources to all earthly matters, as painful as they may be. Pain is my friend now. Pain is my friend because it lets me know that there's still something going on. But guess what? I'm willing to face everything and recover. I'm willing to face everything and rejoice. I'm willing to face everything and be restored. No more forget everything and run. I'm not running anymore. I'm running towards my God. I'm not running back to where He delivered me from. So it's past my time. I'm getting ready to go to my meeting. And I just want to say, mark your calendars so that you can come to my first master's class. I'm so tired of being broken and broke, but there are some spiritual tools, resources, and principles that can help set you free and give you an unlimited amount of spiritual breakthroughs. Will you join me? If it's God's will that we are joined again the next time, because sometimes I do impromptu, Instagram and Facebook Live. But if it's God's will that we meet again, we will. But in the meantime, let me say to you, learn how to let go of resentments. Let go of how to get rid of those resentments. Learn how to forgive yourself and others. But you can't do it without spiritual tools, resources, and principles. You can't do it. You just can't. It's impossible. And you really won't be set free. From recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others. Help others prosper equally. I love you. You love me. We are one big old family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too? Hi, Tande. Hi, Portia. How y'all doing? I love you. I love you. I love y'all. Forgive yourself. When you forgive yourself, you can forgive others. Be blessed.